Welcome to today's fascinating journey into the world of classic American postage stamps. If you enjoy discovering rare collectibles, hidden treasures, and learning how much historic stamps are worth in today's market, then you are in the right place. Today we are taking a close look at one of the most famous United States postage stamps ever issued, the Washington 2 cents red stamp. This small piece of paper may look ordinary at first glance, but depending on its printing variety, condition, centering, gum, perforations, and whether it has any rare errors, it can be worth anywhere from just a few cents to thousands of dollars. Stay with me until the end, because some rare examples of this stamp have surprised collectors by selling for incredible prices at auctions. The stamp shown here is the famous United States 2 cents Washington stamp. It features the portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States, surrounded by a decorative wreath and the words U.S. postage at the top and 2 cents at the bottom. This iconic design became one of the most recognizable American stamps during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Millions of these stamps were printed because the 2-cent rate was one of the most commonly used postage rates in the United States during that period. Many collectors often wonder exactly when this stamp was issued because there are several versions that look almost identical. The design first appeared during the Washington series beginning in the 1890s, and similar versions continued to be printed well into the early 20th century. Different printings were produced using various printing methods, including bureau printing, flat plate printing, rotary press printing, and booklet formats. These differences are extremely important because they can dramatically change the stamp's market value. One of the first things collectors examine is the color of the stamp. Most examples are printed in a deep carmine or bright red shade. However, subtle differences in ink color can sometimes indicate a different printing or issue. Experienced philatelists carefully compare color shades under proper lighting because even small variations may make one stamp much scarcer than another. Another important factor is the perforations around the edges. The tiny holes that allow stamps to be separated are called perforations, and different issues have different perforation measurements. Measuring the perforations with a stamp gauge is one of the easiest ways to identify the exact catalog number. A stamp with perforation 12 may have a completely different value than one with perforation 10 or another uncommon variety. Collectors also pay close attention to the centering of the design. A perfectly centered stamp with equal margins on all 4 sides is much more valuable than one where the design is shifted toward one edge. Even if 2 stamps are otherwise identical, the better centered example can sell for several times more money because high-quality centering is much harder to find. The condition of the paper is equally important. Collectors inspect every stamp for tears, creases, thin spots, stains, fading, repaired areas, missing perforations, and heavy cancellations. Mint stamps with original gum and no hinge marks are usually worth considerably more than used examples. However, a used stamp with an exceptionally clear postmark and outstanding centering can still attract strong interest from collectors. Now let's talk about today's market value. Most ordinary used Washington 2 cents red stamps that were produced in large numbers usually sell for around $1 or even less. Many common examples can easily be found in dealer stock books for between 50 cents and $5, depending on their overall condition. Better centered examples with clean cancellations often sell for between $10 and $25, especially if they have attractive eye appeal. Mint examples in excellent condition generally command much stronger prices. Depending on the exact issue and whether the original gum is intact, many mint copies can range from $20 to well over $100. Professionally graded examples that receive very high condition grades from respected grading companies may sell for several $100 because collectors compete for the finest known examples. Some rare varieties of this stamp are worth far more. Certain printing errors, double impressions, inverted watermarks where applicable, rare perforation combinations, unusual paper varieties, or production mistakes can increase the value dramatically. These exceptional examples have sold for hundreds, thousands, and in some cases even tens of thousands of dollars at major stamp auctions. Such rare pieces are highly sought after because only a small number are known to exist. One exciting aspect of stamp collecting is discovering hidden varieties that many people overlook. A stamp inherited from a family member or found in an old album could turn out to be a scarce printing worth much more than expected. This is why experienced collectors recommend never judging a stamp solely by its appearance. Careful identification using a specialized catalog and proper measurements is always the best approach. If you own one of these Washington 2-cent stamps, it is worth examining it closely under a magnifying glass. Look carefully at the perforations, printing details, paper type, and cancellation. Compare it with reliable stamp catalogs to determine the exact issue. Even small differences that seem insignificant can have a major impact on its collector value. Professional grading can also increase buyer confidence. When a valuable stamp is authenticated and graded by a respected philatelic expert, collectors know they are purchasing a genuine example. Certified stamps often achieve stronger prices because their authenticity and condition have already been verified. The demand for classic United States stamps remains strong around the world. Collectors appreciate them not only for their historical significance, but also for their beautiful engraving, artistic design, and connection to American postal history. George Washington remains one of the most popular subjects in Philately, making these stamps an enduring favorite among beginners and advanced collectors alike. Auction results show that exceptional quality always brings premium prices. A common stamp in average condition may only be worth $1 or $2, while an identical stamp in superb condition with perfect centering and original gum may sell for hundreds of dollars. Rare production varieties and documented errors continue to set impressive auction records whenever they appear on the market. For anyone starting a stamp collection, the Washington 2-cent stamp is an excellent choice. It is affordable in its common forms, historically important, and offers endless opportunities to study different printings, shades, perforations, and varieties. Many experienced philatelists began their collections with this very stamp before expanding into more specialized areas. As of today's collector market, you can generally expect common used examples to be worth about $50 to $75, better quality used copies around $100 to $125, attractive mint examples approximately $120 to $150, while scarce varieties, high-grade certified examples, and genuine error stamps can range from several $100s to many thousands of dollars, depending on rarity, condition, and auction demand. Next up, the Washington 2-cents Carmine Red stamp. At first glance, it may appear to be an ordinary old stamp, but collectors around the world know that some versions of this classic issue can be surprisingly valuable. Depending on its printing variety, condition, centering, gum, perforations, and any rare production errors, this small piece of American history could be worth anywhere from less than $1 to several $1,000s. Stay with me until the end because I will explain what makes this stamp valuable, how collectors identify it, and what its market value is in today's stamp market. The stamp shown here features the portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States. His portrait is displayed in the center with the words United States of America across the top and Postage 2 cents at the bottom. This design became one of the most recognizable American postage stamps ever produced. It was printed in bright carmine red and was issued during the early 20th century when the 2-cent postal rate was the standard rate for mailing first class letters across the United States. Millions of these stamps were printed because they were used every day by businesses, government offices, and ordinary citizens. Since so many were produced, the majority of surviving examples are relatively common. However, not every Washington 2-cent stamp is the same. Over several years, the United States Bureau of Engraving and Printing produced different printings using different plates, papers, and perforation styles. These small differences are what make stamp collecting both exciting and rewarding. One of the first things collectors examine is the printing method. Some stamps were printed using flat plates, while others came from rotary presses. Although the designs appear almost identical, careful measurements reveal slight differences in the size of the printed image. A rotary press variety can sometimes be much scarcer than a flat plate version, making it significantly more valuable. Another important feature is the perforations around the edges. These tiny holes allowed stamps to be separated from large sheets. Different issues have different perforation gauges, and measuring them accurately helps determine the exact catalog number. A stamp with one perforation type may be very common, while another with a different gauge may be considerably rarer and worth many times more. Collectors also pay close attention to the paper itself. Early 20th century United States stamps were printed on different paper types, and some issues include watermarks, while others do not. Identifying these details requires proper lighting and sometimes specialized equipment, but they play a major role in determining the stamp's true identity and market value. Condition is one of the biggest factors affecting value. A stamp with bright color, sharp perforations, no tears, no creases, and excellent centering will always command a higher price than one with heavy damage. Mint examples that still have their original gum are especially desirable because they have never been used for postage. Used examples are more common, but exceptionally well-preserved copies remain popular among collectors. Centering is another characteristic that greatly influences value. If the design is perfectly centered with even margins on all sides, collectors are often willing to pay a premium. Poorly centered examples are much more common because printing technology at the time was not always precise. A beautifully centered stamp immediately stands out in any collection. Collectors are also constantly searching for rare printing errors. These include missing colors, double impressions, misplaced perforations, inverted designs, paper folds during printing, and other production mistakes. Genuine error stamps are extremely rare and can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on their rarity and demand. Now let's discuss today's market value. A common used Washington 2-cent stamp in average condition usually sells for between $25 and $35. Better quality used examples with attractive centering and clean cancellations often sell for $40 to $50. Mint stamps with original gum generally range from $50 to $100, while superb mint examples with professional grading can bring $200 to over $1,000. Scarcer varieties identified by their perforations, paper type, or printing method may sell for $500 to several $1,000s. The rarest production errors and exceptionally high-grade certified examples have achieved auction prices exceeding $10,000, although such examples are extremely uncommon and represent only a tiny fraction of all surviving stamps. One reason this stamp continues to attract collectors is its historical importance. During the early 1900s, billions of letters were mailed using this design. Every surviving stamp tells a story about communication in an era before email, smartphones, and the internet. It represents a time when handwritten letters connected families, businesses, and communities across America. If you own one of these Washington 2-cent stamps, do not assume its value based only on its appearance. Two stamps that look almost identical may have completely different catalog numbers and values. A careful examination using a perforation gauge, watermark detector, magnifying glass, and a reliable stamp catalog is the best way to identify the exact variety. Professional authentication is highly recommended for stamps that appear unusual or exceptionally well preserved. Expert grading services verify authenticity and assign a condition grade, giving buyers greater confidence. Certified examples often sell for higher prices because collectors know exactly what they are purchasing. The worldwide stamp market continues to show strong interest in classic United States issues. Collectors appreciate these stamps not only because of their monetary value, but also because of their artistic engraving, historical significance, and connection to one of America's most respected historical figures. George Washington remains one of the most popular subjects in Philately, ensuring lasting demand for these classic stamps. If you are just beginning your stamp collecting journey, this Washington 2-cent issue is an excellent place to start. It offers countless opportunities to study different printings, paper types, shades, perforations, and rare varieties without requiring an enormous investment. Many advanced collectors still enjoy searching through collections, hoping to discover a scarce variety hiding among common examples. As of today's collector market, most ordinary used examples are worth between $25 and $35. Higher quality used copies generally sell for $50 to $100. Mint examples usually range from $700 to $150. Premium graded copies often sell for $300 to more than $1,000. and genuinely rare varieties or major printing errors can be worth several $1,000s or even over $10,000 depending on rarity, condition, certification, and collector demand. Next up, the George Washington 2 cents Carmine Red Stamp. Millions of these stamps were printed during the early 20th century, but don't let that fool you. While many examples are common and inexpensive, certain varieties, rare printings, exceptional condition examples, and printing errors have become highly valuable collectibles. Some have sold for hundreds, thousands, and even tens of thousands of dollars at major stamp auctions. In today's video, we will explore its history, identify the features that determine its value, and reveal what this famous stamp could be worth in today's collector market. This beautiful stamp features a finely engraved portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States. His image appears in the center of an elegant oval frame, surrounded by decorative scrollwork with the words United States Postage across the top and Washington 2 cents across the bottom. The rich carmine red color makes this one of the most attractive classic American stamps, and it has become an essential part of nearly every United States stamp collection. The Washington 2 cents stamp was issued during a period when first-class mail was one of the busiest services in the country. During the early 1900s, the 2-cent postage rate paid for ordinary letters, meaning billions of these stamps were printed and used by Americans every day. Businesses, government agencies, newspapers, and families all relied on these stamps to send important correspondence across the nation. Although the design looks simple, collectors know that there are many different versions of this stamp. Small differences in printing methods, perforation measurements, paper types, watermark varieties, and sheet layouts create dozens of collectible issues that appear almost identical to the untrained eye. Learning to identify these differences is one of the most enjoyable parts of stamp collecting. The first feature collectors examine is the printing process. Some Washington 2 cent stamps were produced using flat plate printing, while later issues were printed on rotary presses. Rotary press stamps are often slightly larger because of the printing process. Measuring the design carefully with specialized tools can reveal whether a stamp belongs to a common issue or a much scarcer variety. The next important feature is the perforation gauge. The tiny holes around the edges of the stamp were designed to allow easy separation from large sheets. Different printings use different perforation measurements, such as gauge 10, gauge 11, or gauge 12. Even a small difference in perforation size can significantly change a stamp's rarity and collector value. Collectors also inspect the paper itself. Some early United States stamps were printed on paper with watermarks, while later issues were printed on paper without watermarks. Identifying the watermark correctly can immediately narrow down the catalog number and determine whether the stamp belongs to a common or much rarer printing. One of the most important factors affecting value is condition. A stamp with bright original color, sharp perforations, clean paper, and no tears or creases will always command a higher price than one with damage. Collectors carefully inspect every stamp under magnification for thin spots, stains, repairs, fading, missing perforations, or heavy postmarks that reduce eye appeal. Centering is another major factor. Ideally, the design should sit perfectly in the middle with equal margins on all four sides. Because printing equipment of the era was not always perfectly aligned, many stamps are off-center. Perfectly centered examples are much harder to find and often sell for several times more than average copies. Unused stamps with original gum are especially desirable. If the stamp has never been placed on an envelope and still retains its original gum without hinge marks, collectors consider it a premium example. Mint never-hinged stamps often achieve much higher auction prices than used examples, especially when professionally graded. One of the most exciting areas of Philately involves printing errors. Some Washington 2 cent stamps exist with dramatic production mistakes, including misplaced perforations, double impressions, color shifts, paper folds, or other manufacturing defects. Genuine error stamps are extremely rare because quality control usually removed defective sheets before they reached post offices. When authentic errors are discovered today, they can sell for remarkable amounts of money. Now let's discuss the market value of this famous stamp in today's collector market. Most ordinary used examples in average condition are very affordable and usually sell for between $0.25 and $5, better centered. Used examples with attractive cancellations often bring $10 to $30. Mint examples with original gum generally sell for $25 to $150, depending on condition and the exact catalog variety. Professionally graded examples in outstanding condition can command significantly higher prices. Superb mint stamps with exceptional centering have sold for $300, $500, or even more than $1,000, especially when certified by respected philatelic grading organizations. Scarce varieties identified by unusual perforations, watermark differences, rotary press printings, or specialized catalog numbers often sell for $500 to several $1,000s. The rarest production errors and finest known examples have realized auction prices exceeding $10,000, although these exceptional stamps are extremely uncommon and are found only on rare occasions. If you have inherited an old stamp album or discovered one of these Washington 2-cent stamps in a family collection, it is worth examining carefully before assuming it has little value. Many valuable stamps are overlooked because they closely resemble common issues. Measuring the perforations, checking for watermarks, identifying the printing type, and comparing the design with a specialized stamp catalog can reveal whether you own a scarce variety. Professional authentication is strongly recommended for any stamp that appears unusual or exceptionally well preserved. Certified stamps are more attractive to collectors because their authenticity and condition have already been verified by experts. This often leads to stronger prices when the stamp is sold at auction or through reputable dealers. The popularity of classic United States stamps remains strong around the world. Collectors appreciate not only their potential investment value, but also their artistic beauty, historical significance, and connection to the development of the American postal system. George Washington remains one of the most collected figures in Philately, ensuring continued demand for these classic issues. The Washington 2-cent stamp also serves as an excellent educational piece for beginning collectors. It teaches important skills such as identifying perforations, recognizing different printing methods, studying watermarks, evaluating centering, and understanding how condition affects value. Even experienced collectors continue searching for better examples and rare varieties to improve their collections. As of today's collector market, common used examples typically sell for $0.25 to $5. Attractive used copies often range from $10 to $30. Mint examples usually sell for $25 to $150. Premium certified copies can reach $300 to over $1,000, while scarce varieties, rare printings, and genuine printing errors may be worth several $1,000s or even more than $10,000, depending on rarity, condition, certification, and current collector demand. This remarkable Washington 2-cent stamp is far more than an old piece of paper. It represents an important chapter in American history and remains one of the world's most collected classic postage stamps. Whether your example is worth only a few dollars or turns out to be a rare treasure, every stamp tells a story of communication, craftsmanship, and history. Before selling any valuable-looking example, always have it professionally identified and authenticated, because the smallest detail can make an extraordinary difference in its true market value. Happy collecting, and may your next stamp discovery become the highlight of your collection.